Alright, so the child process module is one of the main things that we're going to understand in this section. So let's go ahead and quickly use the module and just see how it works. So I'm going to navigate into my desktop, and then I'm going to navigate into uncc-code folder, and right here I'm just going to create a new folder and I'm just going to call it Unix. I'm going to navigate into this folder and let's just create one file called playground.js. And I'm going to open up this folder in my Visual Studio Code. Alright, so here inside of the playground.js, I'm going to first include the child process object, but I'm not going to just include the whole thing. I'm going to include an object that the module is exporting, and that one is called spawn. So I'm going to say const spawn equals require, and then from node child process. Now at this point, we're not really trying to understand exactly what this is doing. For now, I'm just going to give you a quick definition and say that using this object, we can run other processes in our machine. So we can just say spawn, we can call the function, and then here we're going to specify something. Now this something that I'm going to specify is just ls right now. So I'm going to just say spawn ls. Alright, and I'm going to just save this result into something called subprocess. Now I'm going to talk about why I called it subprocess later on. For now, let's just do this, and then once we do this, we have access to something called the standard out. So let's do that. So subprocess. Now what I'm doing right now is that I'm just going to see the output of this command. So if I run ls in my terminal, I'm going to see some result. And now let's go ahead and try to see that result right here in Node. So subprocess dot stdout or standard out dot on. Now this is just a stream, and we're going to read from it just like before. So dot on data, then we're going to have our data in form of a buffer. And all that I'm going to do is that I'm just going to log it to the screen. So I'm going to say console.log data.toString. Okay. So let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. I'm going to go back into my terminal, and I'm just going to say node playground.js. And when I run it, you see that I got this thing, which is the exact same thing if I just run ls in my terminal. Let's just create a few files and then try it again. So I'm going to say touch maybe file1, file2, and then maybe image.jpg. Let's also create a directory and call it just testing maybe. And now if I run ls, I'm just going to see all the stuff that I just created. Now let's now go ahead and run the playground. So I'm going to say node playground, and you can see that I got the result back. So it seems like that in this spawn thing, we can, well, put some commands that we can run in our terminal. But that is not quite the case. So if I go ahead and try one more command. For example, I have this thing called ll, and when I run it, it's going to list all the stuff that I have and also the hidden files. And it's also going to display the file sizes of each file that I have in that directory. You may or may not have access to this ll. Try it, see if it works. And if I try now that thing here, so if I put ll here and then I run the code again, so node playground, now I'm going to see an error, and this error says that spawn ll, and I'm getting this error code, which means entity not found. So Node is telling me that I'm not able to find ll, but we saw that we were able to run ls here, and we also managed to run it here in the code, and I can also run ll, and it works here, but inside of Node it's not working. So what in the world is happening right now? Now again, ll might be something that you may or may not have access to, but something that you for sure have access to if you are on a Unix-based machine is disown. Now, we don't care what this command does, but I can run it right now and it tells me no current job. You can think of this thing that you can use it to remove some processes that your machine is doing. Again, we're not going to talk about it. The point is that I can run it right now on my terminal, and you can run it too. And if I now try it here, so I say disown. Now technically, if it works, we're just going to see the result right here to our console that says disown no current job. But let's run it. And you can see that again, I got another error. And again, it's the exact same error, entity not found. So it's telling me that node, the child process objects, was not able to find this. So it's kind of confusing at this point. What can we specify here and what can't we specify here? Now again, I'm going to say the main reason why we use spawn to run processes, to run applications. So right now you have a whole bunch of applications installed on your machine and you can run all of them using this spawn. Now we're going to come back to this later on, but let's now talk about something else that this child process module is giving us, and that is called exec. We were not able to run LL or disown here using spawn, but let's also give this exec a shot and see what we can do using this one. Again, we're going to come back and talk in great detail what these do. For now, we're just trying to play around and see what these things are capable of doing. So I'm going to say exec. Now using exec, we can run straight commands. For example, we can run multiple things. Here in spawn, we can only specify one thing. And as the second argument, we can specify some other stuff. For example, I can run ls, and then I can pass an argument to it in an array and say -l, which is going to list all the stuff that I have. Now, if I just run this pretty quick again, so node playground, you can see that now I get a different result. I'm now running ls-l. Okay, so using spawn, we can run other processes. It seems like that we're running some commands, but let's just put this discussion aside and try to now use the exec again. Now, these two objects that are being exported by child process, these are the main things that we have to understand in the child process. Okay, so if we understand these two, we will then understand the child process module completely. Now, there are two more things that the child process module exports, but we're not going to talk about them right now because those are built on top of these two. So if we understand these two, understanding the rest would be fairly easy. So let's right now focus as much as we can only on these two objects. So let's now go ahead and run the exec. Using this one, we can now run complete commands. For example, here in sub process, we said ls, and then as an argument, we passed it to it. We cannot do something like ls-l like this. It will not work, and we're going to talk about why that's not the case later on in the section. But here we could do that. So here I can say ls, and then -l. So I'm telling node to execute this. And then we're going to have a callback. And in the callback, we're going to have an error, and then standard out, and then standard error. Okay. And if we have an error, we're just going to say if error, just console.error the error, and then just return. If we don't have an error, we're just going to log the standard out. So I'm going to say console.log standard out. Again, don't worry if you don't know what is standard out or standard error. These are important Unix concepts that we have to understand, but not right now. So let's just log this one, and I'm also going to just log one more thing. I'm also going to log standard error, so I'm going to say console.log, and in ES6 strings, I'm going to say standard error equals stderr. Now it seems like that this has something to do with error. For example, if ls-l returns some error, we're going to get this log. Well, that's partially true, but there's more going on with this. But for now, just think of it that if an error happens here, we're going to get it here. And if a main error happens, for example, if node is not even able to execute this for whatever reason, then we're going to get the error. Okay, so now let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to comment the first thing that we did using the spawn objects, and now let's go ahead and run the playground and see what we're going to get. So node playground, and as you can see here, we managed to run the command, and also standard error is empty, meaning that this just executed successfully. So we can specify some stuff here in exec, and in spawn it looks a bit different. Now what if I try that ll right here? So if I say ll, and if I now run the playground again, you can see that I got another error that it says command failed and ll command not found. So it still seems like that we can't even get this ll thing using the exec. What about disown? So if I run that, now this is a bit more interesting. Well, it says that error command failed, but we see that we got that output. We got disown current no such job. So we're not getting an error that says this was not found. Well, it was found, but well, it was not successful because we didn't specify anything for it. But the point is that it was found, but still hell was not found. It's getting really confusing. Now, how about if we try something else? How about if I echo something? Now, if you're not familiar with what echo does, it just gets some string, for example, string, and it will just output it to my terminal. So it's just like console.log in Node, but it's now in terminal. So in your terminal, you can run echo, and then you can pass some string. It could be in a string, or it could be some text like this, and it's just going to output it to the console. I can also do something like this, for example, some string. And then I can say, instead of putting the output to the terminal using this weird thing that we're going to talk greatly about later on, give the output to another command. And this other command is tr. So I'm going to say tr, which stands for translate. So this means translate. This command is going to get some input and it's going to do some replacing. So I'm just going to say replace all empty strings with a new line character. If I run this right now, you can see that I get some string, but now in 2 different lines. So I just ran one command. It's a simple command that you can do in your terminal. And it just, again, is going to log something, but this command is going to grab the output and then it's going to give it to the tr application. And this tr is just going to replace all empty strings with a new line character. And I got the result right here. Now, what if we try to run this in maybe both spawn and exec? Okay, so I'm just going to paste that command right here and comment it. So I just want you to think about this for a second. Do you think we can run this thing in exec, or do you think we can run it in spawn? Okay, so let's first try it with exec. So again, I'm going to copy that and I'm just going to paste it right here instead of disown. Now we have some strings like this. I'm just going to change them all to single quote. All right, looks good. And now let's run it and see what will happen. Again, at this point, we have this field that some of the commands work and some of them don't, but let's try this one. So I'm going to say Node playground, and as you can see, it worked. Now we are able to get some string, but now in 2 different lines. So it seemed like that Node was able to execute this command in our terminal. It got the string, it then passed it along to tr, and then tr did the replacement. But what if we try to do this using the spawn? So here, spawn, again, here we can only specify one item, only one thing, so echo, and then it seems like that all of the other stuff that we have, they're just different arguments. So let's try that. So here I'm going to say something as the first argument. As the second one, I'm going to pass the weird thing. And as the third argument, I'm going to pass tr. And then as the other one, just an empty string. As the other one, the new line character. So let's try this. I'm going to now uncomment this and comment the exec. All right, so it seems kind of logical that we're running something and then we're passing these arguments. But let's go ahead and run it and see what we're going to get. So Node playground. And when I run it, you can see that I literally got that string that says something and then that thing and then tr. So what is happening right now is that echo is being run, but the rest of them are just being passed as its argument. So whatever I specify here, I'm going to literally get that. Nothing is going to happen. Whereas here in the exec function, you saw that something actually happened. So the input was grabbed from here and then it was piped, or you can just say for now was moved to this other application, and this tr application was able to do its replacement. But that is not happening here with the spawn objects. So what is really happening? It seems like that exec is a bit more maybe powerful or a bit smarter, but spawn is also allowing us to get the output in the form of a stream, and we saw how powerful the streams are. So now we can do some massive communications. But here in exec, that is not really the case. We're just getting the whole thing in one object. So if we want to, maybe if the command is giving us a huge output, we're not going to be able to read it. We're going to have some memory issues because we're getting the whole thing in just one object, not in a form of a stream. But spawn is giving us that in a form of a stream. So what is really happening? If we want to run a command in Node, what should we do at this point? And also, well, you might be thinking that, hey, you said that we're going to use the child process to communicate with other processes. It doesn't seem like that we're doing that at all. It just seems like that we're running some commands. Well, actually, we are running some other processes. But to really understand what is really happening and to answer all these questions that we asked throughout this video, we have to understand Unix. Okay, so this is where we stop with nodes, and you won't really find anything useful in the node docs because, again, it has really nothing to do with nodes. Now, I just want to say that the reason that we can do this here and we can't do it here, it's not a disadvantage of Node. It's not something that Node is not capable of doing. Actually, this is incredibly powerful, and you're going to see why as we move along with this section. But again, to answer all these questions that we asked before here in this video, again, we have to take a pause from Node and understand some Unix concepts, some really important Unix concepts. And then we're going to come back here and we're going to be able to answer all these questions that we asked before, plus much more. All right, so we're going to take a pause from Node, and from the next video, we're going to continue on with some Unix concepts.